Hello, my name is Shahid Bakar. I am presenting my Tread and Issue assignment for EDU 328, The Adolescent Learner. I chose to read And Still I Rise, The Trials and Triumphs of 12 Gifted Inner City Students, written by Miles Corvin. Miles Corvin, a reporter for the Los Angeles Times, decided to follow 12 students in South Central's high school's gifted program, the only program of its kind in its area. He followed and reported the trials of these students past, as well as their present tribulations. While reading this book, I was astounded by the grit and resiliency of these students as they attempted to secure a chance at a bright future. As Robert Sun wrote in his article, Why Inner City Kids Have a Natural Learning Advantage. I quote, "No question, many urban children face a lot of challenges in their young lives, but from my experience, they have developed one powerful, extremely valuable characteristic that many of their suburban counterparts lack: grit. By this, I mean they have courage and persistence and quickly get back on their feet after setbacks." End quote. It seems no matter how hard these students fought, there was always a new obstacle standing in their way. Major concepts. I believe the major concepts in this book are: 1. How these students and teachers struggle with the society in which they live. 2. How do students and teachers counteract family value instability? 3. What role does the schools and government play in the successes and failures of students? I begin with Concept 1. How these students and teachers struggle with the society in which they live. Each student has their own story. Most of these stories would break the average teenager. Some of the most prevalent obstacles are abuse, both sexually and physically, split families, no parental guidance, homelessness, living in temporary housing, gang violence, peer pressure, teenage pregnancy, and murder. Each of these 12 students have their own stories to tell. Unfortunately, none of their stories are traditional. But just as they have constant similarities of struggle, they each have the consistency of administration who are concerned and invested in their success, both academically as well as socially. In this book, there are teachers that go above and beyond for their students. In the YouTube video, Urban Education Leadership Challenges of an Inner City School, Peggy Burnett, Doctor of Education, discussed the challenges she faces as a principal at an inner city elementary school in Chicago, Illinois. Her major solution is to have her teachers available to students and parents. She requires that the teachers' telephone numbers become available and given out. More profoundly, she schedules constant in-home visitation with students' families and requires her staff to set up a schedule to do the same. I believe this is a must. Education is no longer a 7 to 3 job. To be a teacher, you have the greatest effect being a teacher 24 hours a day. I move to concept number 2. How do students and teachers counteract instability in family value? This is an increasingly difficult subject. Why? Because every family has the right to place values where they see fit. The problem is that not all of these values are conducive to academic success. So as the teachers and administration teach the students, they also have to school parents on how to provide so that your child has adequate support. Even if the teachers can cause change, what about the multitude of children who do not have parents, or parents who listen. For them, the road is even tougher. In the YouTube short documentary titled Is There Hope?, an unnamed rap artist speaks about the word hope. He makes an excellent point that hope is a lazy word. You must do something. If you sit around hoping, nothing will ever change. He states, first you must believe in a higher being, then a higher purpose. Then you must organize and inspire. I agree 100% with this idea. First, we must recognize the goal, then organize families and communities to understand what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior. Once this is firmly fixed in the minds of the masses, it is time to inspire the minds of the students. When that day comes, when the only issue young students must worry about is the schoolwork at task, that is a day we will see great advancement. The final concept that comes from this book is, what role does school and government play in the success and failure of students? In the book, And Still We Rise, there are several students who were waiting until they were 18 so that they could control their own destiny and affairs. It was a reoccurring theme. Hold on. Be patient. When I get to college. No adolescent should be in a situation where they would rather be homeless and struggle than be in foster housing or in a group home. This is where the government should step in. Proper regulations should be in place to ensure safety and security for as many of these students as possible. There is also a problem in the school to prison pipeline phenomenon. In this country, schools treat underprivileged students as though their fate is already written. Alan Singer mentions in his article why many inner city schools function like prisons. He wrote, and I quote, "Students enter buildings through metal detectors. If the device goes off, they are bodily searched. Armed police stand guard. Uniformed security crews that report to the police sweep halls. Students forced to sit in overcrowded, uncomfortable classrooms doing rote assignments geared to high-stakes Common Core assessments. Stressed out teachers fearful that they will be judged by poor student performance on these tests. Use boredom and humiliation to maintain control of the classrooms. When young people react to these conditions, they are disciplined. The ultimate goal of school policy is to sort them out, with a few destined for success, some to menial jobs, and other to imprisonment. When their pipeline schools do their jobs well, the young people who fail are convinced they failed because of their own faults, and that they deserve their punishment." End quote. This is the scene in many schools across this country. How can these students compete? How do they stand a fighting chance? This must be deeply looked at and studied. Educators must be proactive instead of reactive. That is the only way to success. We must believe in the good of every student. We must believe in their process and strive to turn the good students into great students.